For the Lord's Prayer, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Councilor Broderick.
Here.
Councilor Caulfield.
Here.
Councilor Donahue.
Here.
Councilor Elliott.
Here.
Mayor Martin.
Here.
Councilor Armin Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Milanazzo.
Here.
Councilor Ramirez.
Here.
9 present.
9 present. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to offer a moment of silence in Docking Chambers at the request of a constituent. I'd like to do this on behalf of them, to offer a moment of silence for Doris Momblo Theriault, lifelong resident of the Pawtuckettville section of the city. She was the wife of Walter Theriault, who died in 2000. She was a parishioner of St. John D'Arc Church and most recently St. Francis Church. She leaves behind a son and a daughter and 4 grandchildren. She will be truly missed, and I offer this on behalf of a constituent. Thank you.
Thank you. First item on the agenda are the minutes of the March 20th meeting for acceptance. Motion to approve by Councilor Elliott, second by Councilor Milanazzo. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The minutes are accepted. Under the city manager's portion of the agenda, there are communications from the manager in response to several council motions and requests. Any questions or comments concerning those communications? Councilor Donahue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to the manager, I want to thank you for your response regarding my inquiry about 43 Market Street. I did get a few calls, and just I know these are online, but in case the constituents who called don't have access, I just want them to know that it is. DPD has been in communication with the current owner and who is marketing the property and may have a new owner soon, we hope, but that the city is in communication, and I'll follow up with the individuals who called. But I think that's important, not just for the neighborhood, but for the other development in that neighborhood. It has been an eyesore, and it's good to know that the city and the owner are working to correct the situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Manager?
Councilor, just also in response to that, based upon your bringing this forward to us, I have asked that the Inspectional Services Department, the Fire Department, also follow up on this and make sure that that is in fact complying with code until such time as any sale takes place.
Anything further under communications from the city manager? Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to note on our desk tonight we have the annual action plan for the Community Development Block Grant Program. This is going to be advertised, well, it was advertised yesterday for comment period. Does this come back for a public hearing?
Yes, it does.
It does, okay. And unfortunately, I think as a notice, as the memo notes, we received a request totaling 4 times the available funding this year. So we continue to get cut and we get more requests, but it's a good chunk of change, and we continue to help many organizations throughout the city. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Armin Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a follow-up to that, at what point do we have an opportunity to weigh in on this as it relates to individual requests? The public hearing is going to be held for approval, but can amendments, can changes be made at the public hearing time? And what point do we have input?
I'll have Assistant Manager Coggins respond to that, please.
We just started yesterday the 30-day comment period, so now would be the opportunity for the council to have input. We'll be back before you at the end of that 30 days with a final spending plan that obviously requires council approval before it can be sent to HUD for HUD's approval. So between now and 29 days from now, if the council has concerns, they can certainly go on record, and then we would look to address those concerns and bring back a finalized spending plan to you, again, approximately in about a month.
So would it be safe to say that we could, between now and then, communicate our concerns or our questions through the manager to your
Absolutely.
office?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything further under communications from the city manager? Motion to approve the communications placed on file by Councilor Broderick, second by Councilor Ramirez. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The communications are accepted and placed on file. We have several requests for out-of-state travel. Any objection to considering them all together?
I think there's 3.
Great. Okay, dear Mayor and Councilors, attached, please find an out-of-state travel request from William DeRocher, Fire Chief, to send the fire investigator to attend the 29th Annual New England Arson Seminar, May 21st through May 25th. This seminar will be held in Manchester, New Hampshire. Funds for participation fee will come from the manager's out-of-state travel account. Second request is from the Division of Planning and Development, requesting approval for J. Matthew Coggins, Assistant City Manager, DPD Director, to travel April 25 through 27, 2007, to attend Congressman Meehan's 5th District Day. Total cost of the trip will be approximately $1,000 and will be funded through the Community Development Block Grant Program. And the third item is from the Division of Planning and Development, requesting approval for Carrie Johnson, Lead Paint Abatement Program Director, David Sullivan, Lead Paint Program Coordinator, and Edward Busby, Lead Paint Technician, to attend the National Lead and Healthy Homes Grantees and Indoor Environmental Health and Technologies Conference, April 24 through 27 in Orlando, Florida. This conference has 4 separate program tracks offering a variety of relevant training. Topics include lead poisoning, environmental health, best work practices, combating environmental hazards in housing, and program administration. This conference will provide an excellent opportunity for training in the healthy homes field, opening the door to future grant possibilities. The following estimated expenses are for 3 people, will be paid entirely through the Lead Hazard Control Grant Funds, approximately $3,723. Sincerely, Bernard F. Flitch, City Manager. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you. I don't have any difficulty with these travel requests, but Mr. Manager, can we get a report back, particularly on the lead abatement program? What I know that I noticed we allocate approximately $50,000 from block grant programs to lead abatement, but are there other grant programs that the city receives for lead abatement? It seems like it's a rather, it's a good program, but how significant is it, and how many homes do we get into to do lead mitigation? Mitigation, excuse me.
Council, why don't I get you a report on that
Okay.
with the total amount of money that we use, and I know we provide some services regionally on this as well. Okay. So, but we'll get you those numbers on the dollar amount.
I know it's been a long-standing program that the city has, and we should to get rid of the lead in these older homes. But I'm just curious how many homes we get into, and I don't know if the general public knows that there is a program available to the public to take care of the lead in these homes. So I appreciate it.
We will do that.
Okay. Any further questions? Roll call.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield? Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez?
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, the requests are approved. The next item is an order of taking and acceptance of Dean Drive to take by eminent domain in fee a certain parcel of land in the city of Lowell for municipal purposes, to wit, the layout and acceptance of Dean Drive and other municipal purposes associated therewith. Motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Milonazo, seconded by Councilor Elliott. All those in favor of waiving the first full reading, say aye. Any opposed? The first full reading is waived. This matter is to be referred to a public hearing on April 17th. So moved by Councilor Rita Mercier, second by Councilor Milonazo. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to talk through you to the city manager. I know that I have to reserve my comments about this, but to say that we're going to set a public hearing, and at that time, this is something that should have been done many years ago with other developments in the city. The reason I say this is because it's more or less to accept this, the street. And many years ago, there were residents on Raven Road that wanted me to bring forth a motion to repave Raven Road, and I did that. We got a memo back stating that Raven Road and a number of other streets in the city over there were not accepted streets. It was all farmland, and the developer many, many, many years ago never took it upon themselves to do what's going to happen April 17th. So the engineer's office tediously, and it's not something that you just, wave your fingers and do. It takes a lot of work to do what's happening here. Now we let the developers do that, and they save us a lot of time. Having said that, it was accepted and it was repaved, and the same thing happened like a few years ago with Nightingale Terrace and Bluebird Terrace and those particular streets up there in Pawtucketville and God's Country that was never accepted either. And there is a particular street, Nightingale Terrace, who, if I say there's a rut in the road because it's a round cul-de-sac, it isn't a rut. It's like I could fit a truck in the middle of it, and every so often it's like so deep that I have to ask TJ if he could send DPW there and fill it in. And I'm telling you, fill it in, it just gets washed out again. So I wanted to have that street accepted because it never has been. So seeing something like this on the agenda, I think we should take the liberty to do 2 or 3 streets every so often and weave it in to get that done. So I'm asking through the mayor to you, Mr. Manager, if we could look at a couple of streets up there and every now and then have them accepted, because we can't take the money from the budget and repave it. It has to come from Chapter 90 funding, and if the street isn't accepted, it isn't going to get done. So if we could do that, that'd be a good idea, I think.
If I may, Councilor, I'll have the DPW, the engineers, to start to compile a list of. Very frankly, I wasn't aware that this problem existed in the city with unaccepted streets. But you're correct. By statute, the city cannot expend public
right.
monies on those, and particularly Chapter 90 monies. So we'll take a look at that and see if we can develop a plan to address that in the near future.
Thank you very much.
Councilor Armin Mercia.
Just a question of why are we taking this, and are we going to have to pay for doing the road, doing all of the necessary requirements, and what is this leading to? Is this for development of some property in that area, or?
I know a little bit about that too.
Yeah, but I'm asking the manager.
All right.
Why are we taking this?
Perhaps there's someone else that can speak to this more directly than I, but the generally what happens in a subdivision is that it's built out according to the standards, and then the taking is simply to clear the title to make it a piece of public property, and so they can be accepted as a public way. I assume that's the case in this matter as well.
So this is not going to cost us any money to develop?
No.
Someone else is going to do it?
It's already developed, it's already built.
Okay.
And this would simply, this is the appropriate legal process to make it a public way.
Would you relinquish the chair for further information from Councilor Rita Mercia?
She has more than I have, so.
Well, I did some inquiring with the city engineer's office, and this is a development that has been done like a year ago, and it takes a long process to put all this work together, like the street is this length and this width, and all that you see here was done by the developer as opposed to being done by the city. This was all done by the designer of the street and everything. So what we're doing is setting a public hearing so now we can accept that street. And that was a year ago that it was done, so it's already there.
Okay,
Which
so-
should have been done many years ago to the streets that aren't accepted by the city. It really should be. Because technically, we don't even have to send a plow down a street that isn't accepted. I hate to say that, but we will anyway, so,
But this area is developed?
yes, it's all done a
Okay.
year ago.
Thank you.
Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. McCarthy, I know you've been working on this for a while. Approximately how many, or what percentage of the streets are not accepted? I want to say it's close to 35 or 40%, right? And until we do the engineering and have it all, until all the streets are met to the state standard, we can't spend that Chapter 90 money, which is approximately $1 million a year. So it is important for us to, get them engineered. And some of the streets, you need sidewalk specifications and street specifications. So it's a little bit of work, but it's important that we stay on that. And I thought TJ was working on that for a while, Mr. Manager.
Yeah, we were just commenting on that there is a large number that haven't been accepted, and you're correct. You can't expend any of that Chapter 90 money in those roads in particular. And but we will be bringing on a new engineer, the new city engineer in the very near future, and this will be one of the projects that I hope that we'll be able to put them on to.
Councilor Milonazo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the manager, on a somewhat related matter, and it was discussed earlier, the 2007-2008 consolidated plan does have monies set aside for reconstruction of streets and sidewalks. Without commenting too much on that, do those streets and sidewalks have to be in a low to moderate income neighborhood, or can they be anywhere in the city?
Those would have to be in a low to moderate income neighborhood as well.
They would. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anything further? All those in favor of referring this matter to a public hearing on April 17th, say aye. Any opposed? The matter is referred to a public hearing on April 17th. Next item is the quarterly traffic ordinance, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 13 thereof, entitled Motor Vehicles and Traffic. Motion to waive the first full reading by Councilor Elliott, second by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor of waiving the first full reading, say aye. Any opposed? The first full reading is waived. This matter is also to be referred to a public hearing on April 17th. Questions? So moved by Councilor Ramirez, second by Councilor Milonazo. All those in favor of referring this matter to a public hearing on April 17th, say aye. Any opposed? The matter is referred to a public hearing on April 17th. Next item is a vote declaring surplus the property at 201 Circuit Avenue in Lowell, Massachusetts, and authorizing the city manager to seek proposals under the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 30B, for disposition of said parcel, namely 201 Circuit Ave, Lowell, whereas the city of Lowell is the owner of property 201 Circuit Avenue, having acquired title thereof by donation in 1966, recorded at Middlesex North District Registry of Deeds, Book 1765, page 317, and whereas by letter dated March 22, 2007, the city manager has recommended the city council declare the property surplus and not presently needed for municipal purpose, and to include therein a minimum bid of $90,000. Now therefore be it voted by a 2/3 vote that the city of Lowell property at 201 Circuit Ave is hereby declared surplus property not presently needed for municipal purposes. The city manager, acting through the Division of Planning and Development, is hereby authorized to proceed with the disposition of said property under the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30B, and to include therein a minimum bid price of $90,000, and also to include required notification to all abutters pursuant to the Code of the City of Lowell, Section 2-297. Be it further voted that the request for proposal shall contain such other terms, restrictions, and conditions as the city manager deems in the best interest of the city. Second reading by title, a vote declaring surplus the property at 201 Circuit Avenue, Lowell, Massachusetts, and authorizing the city manager to seek proposals under the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 30B, for disposition of said parcel, namely 201 Circuit Avenue, Lowell. Any questions? Councilor Rita Mercy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If this is declared surplus through a vote, and then it goes out to bid under 30B, will this come back before us again to let us know who the person is that bought this surplus piece of property?
Yes, it will.
It will. So the next one will too. Anything like this will come before us again, right?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Roll call.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Armand Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez?
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, the vote is approved. Next item is a vote declaring surplus the property at 104 West Meadow Road, also known as 40 West Meadow Road, and authorizing the city manager to seek proposals under the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 30B, for disposition of said parcel, namely 104 West Meadow Road, also known as 40 West Meadow Road. Whereas the city of Lowell is the owner of property at 104 West Meadow Road, also known as 40 West Meadow Road, having acquired title thereof by tax title foreclosure, August 24, 1938, recorded at Middlesex North District Registry of Deeds, Book 917, page 428. And whereas by letter dated March 22nd, 2007, the city manager has recommended that the city council declare the property surplus and not presently needed for municipal purposes, and to include therein a minimum bid of $230,000. Now therefore be it voted by a 2/3 vote that the City of Lowell property at 104 West Meadow Road, also known as 40 West Meadow Road, is hereby declared surplus property and not presently needed for municipal purposes. The city manager, acting through the Division of Planning and Development, is hereby authorized to proceed with the disposition of said property under the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 30B, and to include therein a minimum bid price of $230,000, and also to include required notification to all abutters pursuant to the Code of the City of Lowell, Section 2-297, and be it further voted that the request for proposal shall contain such other terms, restrictions, and conditions as the city manager deems in the best interest of the City of Lowell. Second reading by title, a vote declaring surplus the property at 104 West Meadow Road, also known as 40 West Meadow Road, Lowell, and authorizing the city manager to seek proposals under the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30B, for the disposition of said parcel, namely 104 West Meadow Road, also known as 40 West Meadow Road. Councilor Rita Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm kind of leery about this, but let me first preface what my remarks will be. I was very instrumental, and I know that, in saying, Mr. Manager, let's look at all our surplus property and get rid of it if we can't use it. And you're doing that, and I commend you and the planning department for doing that. Such as a great example was Circuit Avenue, which was the value, and what we're looking for as a minimum bid meets my approval, but this one does not. This piece of property is 319,000 square feet, and you're asking $230,000, and this property is worth $1 million. Every day of the week, I'd give $230,000 for a piece of $1 million valued property. Now, I need to know, is this property encompassing so many square feet of wetland or conservation land? In that case, I could accept that, but it's very unclear to me what we're talking about here. We're talking about property that's zoned TSF, and I'm not sure about zoning, but does that mean traditional single-family?
It does.
Because if it does, how do we know that we surplus this off, and then they come back to us and they're going to build condo units? You know that one house could be fitted with condo that can have, instead of a single-family traditional home, you got a condo that goes this high and there's like 12 units in it. What impact does that have on our school system in Pawtuckettville? We have only 2 schools there. What is this going to do for that? Now, I know that Mr. Coggins will probably tell me what you're going to tell me, but I'd like to see it in writing so that, I'd like to delay this even for a week, just so that I can see in writing that and I know, I'm just curious about asking questions, because I'm thinking, my son bought a piece of property, and 75% of the property that he bought was conservation land, and he couldn't do anything with it. And if this is the case, then maybe it is worth that. But
Councilor, I apologize. We should have clarified. Well, the parcel itself is 319,000 square feet. A significant portion of it is wetlands. There's another significant portion of it that has such a substantial grade change, you couldn't afford to build on it. What we're talking about is actually carving out of that 50 to 60,000 square feet for somewhere between 3 to 5 single-family homes, and that's it. The rest of it would be permanent conservation land. And I do apologize. We certainly should have clarified that.
And you would be willing to put that in writing?
Oh, it absolutely, it will be.
Because what you tell me today could have changed next week.
Well, again, keep in mind, as the manager had said before, nothing actually gets sold until we come back to this body anyway. So regardless of what we do or don't do, this body has the final say. But yes, that will be part of the disposition process, that the land mass really is 50 to 60,000 square feet, that there is a development of somewhere between 3 but not to exceed 5 single-family homes, and that the rest is permanently preserved as conservation land.
But I didn't read that anywhere, did I?
I have to be honest, we probably should have clarified that. And if it's
I'm
the
looking
will of
at
the body
3.
to hold on, we
If you
could
could
certainly
just-
do that.
Councilor, we'd be more than, if it suits the council, we'd be more than happy to put a hold on this and bring it back next week.
Because I'm not opposed to this. I told you before, we got to get rid of that which
Exactly.
we own, but I'm thinking
Sure.
230,000 for
Right,
319.
and we certainly don't want to mislead the public and make it sound like, that's a tremendous
That's right.
value. So, I mean, we can certainly tighten this up and be back before you next
That'd
week.
be great for me if my colleagues agree with
What-
this.
If I- Why don't I do that, Counselor? I'll withdraw this and bring it back to you
Thank
next
you.
week.
I appreciate it.
Okay, Counselor Caulfield.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. You look at something like this, it's a double-edged sword, and the way I'm looking at it is the 319,000 square feet, that's 7.2 acres, and the city's receiving $32,000 an acre. And if half of those acreage can't be used, it's a piece of property that's sitting there doing nothing, yet it can turn into valuable tax dollars. So if Mr. Coggins, what he is saying is, a good portion of this property is wetlands, you cannot build on it, and someone wants to pay the city probably in excess of $60,000 an acre because they can't use the other acreage, then it's a good deal for the city. But I understand where you're coming from, Counselor. More houses means more children and so forth, et cetera. But there's a piece of property that's sitting there idle, and the city can certainly use the tax revenue and the cash for the land.
In the vote, it makes reference here to include required notification to all abutters. When does that take place? When will the abutters be notified that the city is going to be putting this out for bid?
During the, sale process, as we seek proposals, seek bids, we would notify all of the abutters that, in fact, they were given the opportunity to bid on that as well.
Okay, because I did get a couple of calls from people who live on Jean Dark Street and Rita Street concerning this, what's going on, how many units are going to be built, and it's my understanding it's wetlands, and these are all the questions that were asked, so
Right.
I appreciate taking this off the agenda for a week, and so those questions could be answered, because in the letter from Mr. Coggins, it says here that this value reflects the property as is, condition based on the understanding that the buyer is able to obtain subdivision approval for a minimum of 3 and a maximum of 5 building lots. What happens if that approval is not granted by the planning board? That reverts back to us?
Yes, it
In other
would.
words, whoever bids on this, incidentally, has anybody shown any interest on this that we know of?
I don't believe so, Counselor.
Okay, because I also think that Lowell General Hospital may be in a butter here, in this particular land. But as long as the abutters are notified what we're planning on doing, giving them an opportunity to evaluate what that's going to do to the neighborhoods, I think that we should get that information for us next week.
We'll get you that information, Counselor, on
Okay.
all of the characteristics of the land and the restrictions that would be placed upon this, and move from there.
So this is being withdrawn as we speak?
Yes,
and
it
be
is.
back next week. Okay, thank you.
Anything further on this? Any questions? All right, this matter is withdrawn by the city manager. No further action is necessary. The next item is a vote authorizing the city manager to execute an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Dracut and Stephen Massey individually and as he is trustee, manager of Old Zeal Farm, RET, and Dracut Realty LLC relative to property located at 250 and 275 Totman Road in Dracut, whereas Stephen Massey currently owns property located at 250 and 275 Totman Road in Dracut, and whereas Stephen Massey desires to construct a single-family home on the property at 250 Totman Road and not more than 10 single-family homes on property at 275 Totman Road, Dracut, whereas there is currently no water, sewer, or other utilities accessible to either lot, and whereas both lots are proximate to the city line, Stephen Massey has requested the City of Lowell to provide the necessary water, sewer, and other services required for construction purposes, all at Stephen Massey's expense, and whereas the city is willing to provide said necessary services pursuant to the terms and conditions of the intermunicipal agreement, and all applicable departments have approved such, now therefore be it voted by the City Council of Lowell as follows, that the city manager be and hereby is authorized to execute an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Dracut and Stephen Massey individually and as he is trustee, manager of Old Zeal Farm, RET, and Dracut Realty LLC, relative to property located at 250 and 275 Totman Road, Dracut, for the purpose of providing municipal services to the property. Said intermunicipal agreement shall be in the form substantially substantially the form attached here. 2, be it further voted that any cost of recording the intermunicipal agreement and all related plans shall be at the grantee's expense. Any questions, Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the manager. Mr. Massey will pay for the installation of the sewage,
Yes, he
the
will.
water lines, and then reimburse the city, whoever purchases the homes, back to the city for the use of the sewage and water lines and so forth.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Councilor Rita Mercia.
Thank you. No, but it is noted that all involved departments of the city have approved this agreement, so who am I to say that they didn't know what they're doing? I support this.
Thank you. Any further questions? Roll call.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez?
Yes.
9 yeas.
9 yeas, the matter's approved. Next item are subcommittee reports. Any subcommittee reports? Councilor Rita Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Parks and Recreation met last Wednesday, March 21st. We held our televised Parks and Recreation Subcommittee meeting in this council chamber. All members, Councilor Caulfield and Councilor Broderick, were present along with Manager Lynch, Assistant City Managers T.J. McCarthy and Matt Coggins, along with Park Commissioner Tom Bellegarde. Members of the Commission on Disabilities were present. Kathy Maynard, who made the suggestion in the first place regarding to the handicapped gardens, and Janice Prokowski, who is a member of the Flowering City program, as well as Elizabeth Cannon, the Executive Director of the Lowell Association for the Blind. They all come to discuss Councilor Caulfield's motion regarding their concern for a handicap-accessible garden. Being that we are in the season of spring and thoughts of plants and flowers are filling the air, members of the Handicap Commission feel that there are people with disability who would love to get involved with being included as partners in the beautification of the city. So they brought their case to the city, and we all listened intently as to the number one, where would the location be? Where do they want this garden to be? It was clear that downtown would be the right place with its high volume of people to enjoy the gardens, and downtown being the high-profile area. I made a suggestion that we could put flower boxes in front of the windows at the Roy Garage on Market Street and have like Vinkas hanging plants down, and they could plant flowers. It's right up to the level of height where that would be accessible for them, as compared to people with disabilities bending over and kneeling down to the ground. That they could add colorful and scented flowers. They would not only accomplish their goal of getting involved, but they would also beautify the downtown as well. Another spot that was suggested was to add a wooden raised structure to the side of the wall at the park at the corner of Market and Shattuck, where there's that fountain right on the corner. There's a wall there that the park is handicap accessible, and a wooden structure about 3 feet height and whatever width, possibly 8 feet long, could be used by people with wheelchairs to add their talents and beautify that area as well. And if I know anything about the creativity of the revolving museum, I'm sure Jerry Beck would come across and help out as well. But Elizabeth Cannon informed us that she knew of a grant where funding was available for such a project, and the manager and Matt Coggins will look into it further. Many thoughts and suggestions were heard, and a motion was made to refer these ideas to the manager, and that we'll stay in contact with the Commission on Disabilities to make this happen. This was a good project, and if my colleagues want to add further, if I forgot to say anything, but we briefly took up 2 motions that were before the City Council last Tuesday regarding the summer youth program brought forth by Councilor Judge Ramirez. We asked the city manager to put together what programs would be available for this year and get a report for the council so that we can have a better overview when we address these issues further with the youth subcommittee meeting that will be taking place soon. In the report, we asked for more information as to where we are with the water park in Shed Park. Could this be used to further entertain youth in the summer? Can we take part in the Shannon Grant again? We asked all these questions to the manager to provide more information about business owners sponsoring summer jobs for our youth. And lastly, we discussed the motion by Councilor Jim Milanazzo regarding the feasibility of a skateboard park in Belvedere, specifically to develop a location, and a way to pay for it was suggested. This was also referred to the city manager for a report and recommendation, and that was the gist of the meeting. And if there's any of my colleagues have anything further, that was the report of progress. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Caulfield?
Just very briefly, I think Councilor Rita Mercia covered all the bases. It was also discussed for the city to find out what other communities throughout the country have these flowering gardens for the handicap, and I believe Virginia has really set the tone, and we could set the tone in Massachusetts. I don't think there's any other communities in this state that have these elevated gardens where the handicap can enjoy and get involved. So it was an excellent meeting, by the way.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor of the motion to approve the subcommittee report as a report of progress, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The report is accepted. Any further subcommittee reports? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to the petitions. The first petition is from Mr. Dave Elias of the Mass Motorcycle Association, request to place a motorcycle awareness sign in the city in connection with Motorcycles Awareness Month. Mr. Elias, do you want to be heard on this? Or? Yes. Go right ahead. Just give us your name and address, please.
Sure. Dave Elias, 369 Andover Street. Quick synopsis, this week and the next 4 weeks is the state's motorcycle safety and awareness period as proclamation by our governor. And the Massachusetts Motorcycle Association, which represents 140,000 registered motorcycles and 250,000 licensed motorcyclists in the state. We have applied for a grant to make people aware that at this time of the year motorcyclists are hitting the streets and they need to be seen, because the largest excuse for collisions with automobiles is that they're not seen, and we're trying to make people aware of that. There are more and more 16, 17, and 18-year-olds on the street nowadays that are inexperienced, and we just want to keep them safe. We received a $15,000 grant from Plymouth Rock Insurance, and we have produced the signs, 500 of them. We're trying to get at least one in every city and town, 351 cities and towns in the state. We're probably not going to be able to do that because we're a small organization, but if we can get 2 in Lowell because of its size, we'd be extremely happy, and I think it'll go a long way in protecting a pastime that's become not only a family pastime, but young kids and adults my age.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Councilor Armin Mercia?
Just a question, has,
Yes.
has a location been determined for these signs? Like, is it
I have
gonna be-
suggestions, but I was going to leave it up to whoever you gave me as a contact with the city. We'd like to have one as close to the police station as possible, and we were thinking as the other one down at the base of the Lowell connector where the Welcome to Lowell sign is as you come up Thorndike Street.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now, you said the campaign was the last week in March to the last week in April or whatever. Is this
Correct.
like a month-long campaign?
Correct.
So this sign that you're talking about, these 2 signs, would be somewhere in 2 strategic places to alert the people that motorcycles are everywhere. Please be careful. Now, you would leave the signs there for a month?
Correct. We
And
will
then they'd
erect.
be gone.
We will erect them, and then we'll come back at the end of the month and take them down.
There is a picture of the sign in the
Yes,
packet.
yes,
that's,
I saw it.
in Tewksbury.
I don't have a
Coun-
problem with that at all.
Councilor Milanazzo?
But it's not up to me, it's up to the manager.
I actually don't have a problem with it either, but I do want to say for the record that David is a lifelong friend of mine, and he did speak to me about this, and I told him that I would support this being sent to the city manager's office, so I think that's probably the appropriate place for it to go. But again, we're already kind of in the window of when they need to be put up. The 30-day starts, I think, next week. So if we could act on this accordingly, I certainly, as one council, would certainly appreciate that. And I know that David and the group he represents will certainly stand by their word, and when they're due to come down, they will take them down. For those watching from home, David Elias and his partner Frank Hurley for a number of years own the brew house here in Lowell, and they've been strong supporters of economic development activities here. And as most of us know, his family had the Elias Tobacco business here on Merrimack Street for a number of years, and they've been lifelong residents here and care greatly about this community. So again, I think this is something that should be supported. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Armin Mercia.
Under full disclosure, David is also a neighbor of my son at Hampton Beach on L Street. Frequently go to the L Street Tavern. They're very good friends.
You're going to visit the sign locations up there to make sure it's...
Well,
A lot of motorcycles there, I'll tell you.
27 years ago, David was an usher in my wedding.
All right. Okay, motion to refer this matter to the city manager by Councilor Milonazo, second by Councilor Rita Mercier. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The matter is approved and referred to the city manager. And he'll be in touch with you, Mr. Elias, about whatever location's going to work for the city.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next petition is from Mr. Bo Chu, petition to the City Council to make Lowell more bicycle and horse friendly. Mr. Chu, if you could just give us your address, please, for our records.
739 Merrimack Street. It's near Aiken. Well, I'm kind of a new guy here. But I got my bike out, and I've been riding around, and there's not a lot of places to lock your bike up. And then I sort of got this checking account from the Joan of Arc bank, I call it, and they talked about Joni on the Pony, and I started thinking about Joni on the Pony and how it would be fun to ride horses or ride around in a wagon, like close off some of the streets from cars, because the streets were built for horse and wagon time, and they weren't built for cars, actually, and it's kind of tight, as you all know. So I just thought, since we're a tourist town, it would be fun to get dressed up in old-timey clothes and do, before the electric streetcar, they had horse-drawn streetcars. And it would just be a lot of fun and would create a lot of buzz to do the old-time thing, you know, and have live musicians instead of iPods, you know, and have concerts like they used to do. And I even got this, I was reading about Lakeville had I guess all the workers used to work here in the factories, and then maybe they would go on the weekends and get on the trolley someplace and go up to this amusement park and do rides and Ferris wheels, and they had a ballroom there, and you can go ballroom dancing, and I thought that was pretty cool, and I'm gonna start ballroom dancing. And so just to revive that kind of stuff and get off the video games and the drugs and the stabbing people in school, and you know, it's just like, it's horrible what's going on.
Okay. All right, Mr. No one's being stabbed in any schools here. So, thank you very much.
Little clarification, that Joni on a Pony is actually St. Jean d'Arc.
St. Jean d'Arc.
And that's what the Jean d'Arc Credit Union is named after.
Yeah, I know that.
St. Jean d'Arc.
Yeah.
It's not Joni on a Pony.
Well,
it's St. Jean d'Arc
that's what I forget her name. When I got my new checking account,
Yeah.
They call it.
You're with a great bank, but it's...
Pardon?
You're with a great bank, but it's St. Jean d'Arc. The other thing is that ballroom you were talking about is
Yeah.
long gone.
Yeah.
The trolley would go there and meet up with condos.
With what?
Condos, that's at Lakeview Ballroom
Yeah.
in Tingsboro. That's all long gone, so...
Yeah, I understand that. But just to revive some of that feel, some of that old energy would be a nice thing to do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chu.
Move we refer this to the city manager.
Okay, motion to refer the matter to the city manager for review and a recommendation by Councilor Armin Mercier, second by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, the matter is referred to the city manager. Next petition is from Attorney James Flood for Pilot Perkins LLC, requesting a meeting with the traffic subcommittee concerning road improvements on Perkins Street. Motion to refer this matter to the traffic subcommittee by Councilor Milonazo, second by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, this matter referred to it's actually the traffic and neighborhood subcommittee, I believe. Okay. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, the vote is approved. Councilor Elliott?
Has the manager looked into this as well, or is there a recommendation, or it just,
We will have a recommendation at the time of the subcommittee meeting.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield?
Mr. Mayor, the Neighborhood Traffic Subcommittee would certainly entertain this petition, and if we do, Manager Lynch, Matt Coggins, and all necessary department heads will be at that meeting.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Rita Mercier?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know if you, there were two petitions in my packet, and I don't see them on the agenda. Were you about to talk about
Yeah,
them?
well, the claims, there
Yeah,
are
I
two
didn't see
claims
it
that
on-
aren't on the agenda, but they are in the packet.
Okay, there's two.
Motion to refer the claims to the Law Department by
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercier, second by Councilor Milonazo. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, the claims are referred to the Law Department. Okay, that completes that section of the agenda. Under motions, Councilor Caulfield has the first motion. The City Council requests the City Manager have the Commissioner of Public Works develop and implement a strategy for the removal of snow and ice from small streets and dead-end streets, seconded by Councilor Broderick. Councilor Caulfield.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I contacted Ed Walsh in this motion, and I let him know, and the employees of DPW, this is in no way to be critical or criticize, but what happens during a snowstorm, whether it's large or small, I and my colleagues receive many phone calls. My street hasn't been plowed, it's a dead-end street, it's only 700 yards long, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And eventually, the city does plow those streets. But it's almost like, let's get the main thoroughfares open first, which they should, then the secondary streets, and sometimes these streets are forgotten. And I'll just name some of the streets. Barton, Nichols, Holt Terrace, Hampton Avenue, just to name a few. And it happens at every snowstorm. As a matter of fact, one gentleman, I guess, got his friend with a plow, and they plowed the street. They're taxpayers, they pay the taxes, and they should receive the same service as everyone else. So I don't know how you can do it, TJ and Mr. Manager, but if you can pinpoint on a map what site, what dead-end streets and so forth, and designate some trucks to those particular streets. And, it is, I receive the calls, and I don't mind receiving them. And I call TJ and he said, we'll get to it as soon as we can. But those people are like the next day, and there was one woman on Hogue Terrace, could not get her car onto her street, and she had to park on Wilder Street, and she was fearful her car was going to get towed. So those are the things that I and my colleagues hear all the time. So, but I assured DPW that it's not a critical motion, it's just to see if we come up with a better way of doing things. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Milonazo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is a good motion because we all do get calls from residents asking when their streets would be plowed. But on a related matter, and Councilor Caulfield did mention the issue of towing, Could we, and if you want me to file a separate motion, I certainly can do that, but can we get a report as to how many cars were actually towed this past winter? Because again, something that I've been curious about, and a couple of people have actually asked me as well.
Thank you. Councilor Donahue.
Thank you. I know we didn't have many storms this winter, but the few we had were difficult, it seemed. They were, prolonged and, varying in degrees of precipitation. So that might explain why it took a while. The trucks still had to keep doing the main thoroughfares, but I hear what is being said. But in that vein, I'm just curious, where do we stand on the, do we know where we stand on the snow and ice budget? Sometimes people think because we didn't have many storms, we saved money, but usually that's never the case.
I don't think the expenses from the most recent storm are all worked through the system, but prior to that, we were just slightly over our total budget of $550,000.
Okay.
I think we're about 700,000, which is more than we had appropriated, but certainly much less than it has been in prior years.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot less than other years, but, okay, thanks.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the city manager. I made this suggestion some time ago. I think it's kind of a good one. It's probably too late in the year now, but maybe next fall or whatever when we do it. And I don't know if you need to, if this is an ordinance, but when we issue placard decals for the sides of the private tow trucks, if we could have another placard that says a number, because if someone's not doing their job and it's the red truck with the bubble top, I mean, that could be a description for many people. So if we could say that truck, that private truck that's got the placard, but it's number 11, we could pinpoint it a little bit better. So I don't know how that works, if we put it into writing, is that an ordinance or it's a contract? If we could put that into the contract that they not just get a placard, but they get a number as well.
I think we can look into that, Councilor, and we'll get a report on the. Actually, we'll put a report together that handles the towing and the money spent. The plan may take a little bit more time, but I'm planning on no more snow this winter, so we'll get that for next year, though.
Thank you. Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. McCarthy or the manager, one of the two. What is currently the process for calling in contractors? Is it, the more snow we get, the more help you need naturally, but on the lighter storms, is it the city? I mean, the city's designated or essentially divided into 5 or 6 zones.
Right.
Is that right? And then when you need contractors, they go to certain streets? Or
well, typically,
is there, this should be one circular route, correct?
No, there are actually about a dozen routes.
There's about 12 routes?
About 300, right, we service about 340 miles of roads, about 1,400 streets. A lot of these are tricky streets, the dead-end streets have been mentioned earlier. Certainly practice. We only really had 2 runs this year. That will factor into the quality of service we're able to deliver. As a rule of thumb, typically if we're going to go to a plowing situation, we'll go to the contractors right away, generally over 3 to 4 inches.
So the city workers do, the main thoroughfares, and then contractors go to the...
It'll be a mix, really.
It's a mix? Okay.
Yeah, typically we're going to try to match up contractors and city trucks all together, utilize 4x4, different types of equipment, front-end loaders, and so forth, so every zone has equal amount and equal type of equipment.
Okay.
I think, if I may, Ms. McCarthy indicated, generally, if it's going to be a small storm under 3 inches, that we may not have to send plows out. We'll only use our own equipment and sanders as well as plows that are needed. But after you get above that, then you have to start calling in the private.
And are those contractors given a map of what area or territory they have, or are they briefed ahead of time? Or
Yes, they come into DPW headquarters. They'll get a map. And subsequently, the engineers will oversee their particular sector and make sure that they're doing the routes properly or is keeping up with the storm, making sure they're on the main thoroughfares.
That was a good explanation. Thank you.
Councilor Caulfield.
Very briefly, Mr. Mayor, TJ neglected to mention this. There's over 1,400 streets in the city. And to plow a street in this city is not an easy task for that person behind that plow. And some residents, Mr. Manager, are still not getting their cars off the street.
Right.
You cannot plow the street thoroughly or properly if there's 5 or 6 cars on one side of the street. It's just impossible. If you're plowing a street in suburbia, it's much, much easier because people have their cars up the street. But in the Lower Highlands, for instance, one section of Pine Street, the cars were buried with snow 4 days later. And they're not paying attention to getting the vehicle off the street. And it's hard to plow a street if there's a car there.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The motion is approved. Next motion by Councilor Elliott. City Council requests the city manager explore the possibility of implementing a resident hotline for pothole damage and reports. Second by Councilor Ramirez. Councilor Elliott.
The motion speaks for itself. It's just an idea, Mr. Manager. As we go through pothole seasons, I know 9 of us here, and you know, you and your staff, I'm sure receive phone calls. I'm sure DPW receives phone calls, but I got this idea actually from another community where they have a hotline in residents. I'm even thinking, you know, it was mentioned yesterday, maybe the police can call in, you know, in their travels to this line, and maybe someone at DPW picks it up on a daily basis and goes out and fills it. I don't know what the process is now. I don't know if this is going to make it worse, but it just seems like if people know that they can call 1-800-POTHOLE and say, look, there's a big pothole on my street. I'm not sure if it'll make TJ's job easier, but it'll certainly have to field a lot less calls to, you know, from at least the 9 of us here and yourself. So that's the motion, and if it works, it works. But it's an idea anyway.
Mr. Manager.
Councilor, I think we can move forward with that. I think that's a great idea. I've seen that used in a number of communities, something similar. We actually have a hotline now in neighborhood services to deal with issues like graffiti. I think we can publicize it as also a hotline for potholes. Long term, it's our goal that we get a lot of input now, complaints, suggestions that we take on the internet, on our website, and so we can utilize that as well. But long term, what we're looking at is instituting a 311 system similar to that's been put in place in a number of other communities. They provide pretty much 24-hour service to people that for any type of complaint or issue that they have that we can then follow up on. And importantly, it's a system that we can utilize to monitor our performance as an organization and track what we're doing, how we're doing it, and the response time. So that's something long-term we're looking to do. But certainly in the short term, I think we can use that graffiti hotline along those same lines for the potholes, as well as any other type of emergency, or not emergency, obviously, but any other issue that people have.
And is that number published someplace for people to see?
It is published, and I meant to bring that with me tonight, but I don't have it in front of me. But we will put that in the paper and get that word out there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Armin Mercia.
While we're on the subject, my hotline rang yesterday for a couple of times. 71 Dover Street, huge pothole there. If a car hits that, we'll get sued big time. 71 Dover Street. Thank you.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? Motion's approved. Councilor Caulfield.
Mr. Mayor, before you adjourn, Mr. Douglas from Russell Recycling is here. If the council would like to have him come to the microphone, it doesn't matter to me if he comes or not. Doesn't matter to him either. But if the council would like to hear Mr. Douglas about the recycling.
Recycling? Is that what you said?
Yes. He's in charge of the Russell Recycling. And I just want to make it clear, I apologize to the manager after the meeting last Tuesday. I didn't intentionally try to circumvent his powers as manager. It was a situation where a constituent called me. The constituent called many times and didn't get any results. So I took it upon myself to call Russell, and they have straightened the matter out. And he said, I will go to the council meeting. If the council wants to have me address them, he will. But if the council doesn't want that, that's fine.
Councilor Donahue.
Thank you. Well, I certainly accept the representations that were in the letter from actually the residents saying they have started picking up. It does seem that it was a missed pickup for a number of times, but it seems like Russell has found where they are and is picking up their recycles. So I accept that explanation. I don't know that I mean, I have no problem hearing from them, but it's just, it seems like they've addressed the problem.
Councilor Armin Mercia.
Through you to the city manager, have you met with, since the last meeting, representatives of Russell Recycling?
I had an extensive phone conversation with Mr. Douglas.
So you are addressing the situation? That was
Absolutely.
brought to our
And again, anytime people have an issue like that, all they have to do is contact our recycling coordinator or, Mr. McCarthy, and we can follow up on that and make sure that it's important that the contract be adhered to. And if there are missed pickups, we want to know about it so that we can take the corrective action.
Because I've had a couple of calls of people who have given up on recycling.
Right.
They just weren't picked up, the green barrels wasn't picked up, and they put it out second time, third time, decided the heck with it, and it's now costing us money.
Right, and that's not acceptable.
So I think that more leaning on them that takes place by you is a lot more than us as a group, because those contracts, if what we're hearing from our constituents are true, are not being followed, and that someone should pay attention to that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone further on this? All right. Mr. Douglas, we appreciate your being here, and we appreciate your attention to this problem, and, hope to minimize these occurrences in the future. So thank you for being here. Councilor Caulfield.
I just want to say one thing. This city is only recycling 13% of its trash. And if we have a dead-end street, and that truck is not going down that dead-end street, that's why we're not recycling as we should. And if we don't recycle, PFI is picking up all the revenues. And we have to, roll up our sleeves and work together. And the gentleman on Bellevue Street went out of his way to get his neighbors to start recycling. And the truck didn't pick it up. And they were, they were upset about it. So hopefully that will be taken care of. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I believe that concludes matters on the agenda. Motion to adjourn by Councilor Elliott, seconded by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Meeting stands adjourned.